All right, my friends, buckle up because Arcade1up is working on some fresh announcements they're going to have for CES. So, for those of you who aren't sure, CES is happening this year. It's going to be all digital, I'm sure, but it's going to be January 11th through the 14th. When David McIntosh says next week we're going to have new products, how many, which category, new category, find out more next week. I don't know. I mean, if he says is it a new category, then there probably is a new category. I feel like we've seen enough new categories. If we're defining category as arcade cabinet, infinity game table, pinball, I think people want to see the stuff that's out there get delivered on. Maybe new pinballs, maybe upgraded pinball, maybe upgraded arcade. But if new category means six-player cabinet or a conventional arcade light gun game, something like that, then count me in for sure. But I wonder what we're going to get. So it's always interesting to look at these tweets and then to see if there's any ensuing discussion. And so if we take a look at a tweet from T1000, I like that. Will you guys be making an announcement on EU availability? We still haven't gotten a bunch of cabinets. Feel left out. We do have news on EU availability. Not certain when it will be announced, as we are finalizing what those details are. International expansion is a priority for us, but requires a lot of work. That's been the theme I think we've heard from every company in this space, that of course people want to sell to as big an audience as possible. But it just seems to be really challenging for everyone. And I don't know anything about that side of business, so I'm just going to assume it is in fact as hard as it looks. All right, next up, what's your favorite cabinet that you are announcing? It's a classic, but games and IP we all know and love. So I assuming by it he's saying the game that he's hype about is a classic. I mean there's really not much info to go on there. It's going to be a big name. I mean, I'm curious to see what they do. They already brought the heaviest gun you could bring to an arcade fight, Miss Pac-Man, and that was a huge announcement last year. So, what does this year bring? Are we going to see any more 70s or 80s titles? Well, we know Tempest is still out there, the Atari 12-in-1 with the Tempest skin. It's not really a new cabinet. And I might be interested in that, but only if they fix the spinner. And I don't mean just a freely rotating spinner. They already fixed that. But I mean variable resolution so that you can actually play all the spinner games at the appropriate sensitivity. If they could do that and you get the Tempest skin, I would consider that. The shape of the Tempest cabinet is pretty cool, certainly iconic, and it would be a neat piece in the room. But beyond that, I'm guessing we're going to see mostly 90s stuff. I really am. I think this is going to be the time for the later stage 2D games to start hitting. I think we're just going to see them move into 90s. I think when you talk to a retail buyer at Walmart, they're going to recognize 90s games like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff they brought last year. A lot more so, I think, than a game from the 70s or 80s. And let me clarify that because, of course, there are 70s and 80s arcade games that are the most iconic. It's just that Arcade1up has already released them. I don't see them continuing to go down the Pac-Man well again. I'm sure we'll see another variant of Pac-Man at some point, but I think this is going to be the year of newer arcade games since their roadmap has been pretty clear. Let's release the earlier games first because they're the cheapest to emulate, and then over time the cost to emulate will come down and we'll release newer games. Now that said, I think they are going to revisit some stuff they've already done in addition to the Tempest 12-in-1 cabinet. I think we are going to see a new Mortal Kombat this year. I know the anniversary isn't until next year, but there have been some hints dropped, and look, I'm not 100% on that. It could be a new Street Fighter they revisit. It'll definitely be one of the two. But I think we're going to see online Mortal Kombat this year. I think it's possible we'll see some other re-releases here and there, but by and large, I think Arcade1up is going to try to make some headlines with some newer arcade games based on some huge IPs. So think about games that are based on licenses. That seems to be what Arcade1up wants to do. Look at what they've done with the games table, the Infinity Games table. It's not just board games, but now they're going to be getting into licensed board games. You're probably thinking, aren't all board games licensed? Yeah, but I'm talking about like the Game of Thrones version of pinball. They just really want brand names to help sell into retailers. That seems to be a big part of their competitive advantage, is getting that brand recognition in front of retail buyers. And I think that's going to continue. I think we're going to see games like The Simpsons that we know they have access to that license, And we know it's as big of a license as you can really get. So when you're thinking, what are we going to get next week? Think about what games are based on big name licenses that Arcade1up is likely to have access to. And I would add to that, probably think about games from the 90s, because I think that's the era that we're entering. And then if you go through the rest of the replies, there's really nothing here. So we're running on fumes. But I wanted to give you a quick update because we're going to know a lot next week. What do you guys think we're going to get? What does he mean by which category? I hope he means more light gun games. What does he mean by new category? Maybe it's the pro cabinet, maybe it's not. A category could be like a gimmicky consumer thing, or, they have talked about doing a commercial grade cabinet. They've talked about doing a Ferrari tier cabinet. I don't know if that's one and the same thing. I hope not. I hope we get a really high end 3/4 scale cabinet and not a full size that's going to look weird next to all the 3/4. But let me know what you guys think we're going to get. Thanks for watching, and we'll find out more next week.